Attention to matters education in the country and shed light on the standoff between the Kenya National Union of Teachers and the Ministry of Education over the rollout of the competency-based curriculum in the country versus the old system. And we have seen the standoff between the union led by Wilson Sossion, nominated Member of Parliament, and Professor George Magoha, the CS Ministry of Education. In the next 25 minutes, we'll be joined by Jasper Ondimo, who is a teacher and communications expert. Thank you, Jasper.
Thank you
We
so
do
much.
appreciate your time. Good morning. Welcome
Morning
to the
you.
program. And I just want to go directly into it and pointing out perhaps the sense of standoff between the ministry and the union when it came to the issue of the competency-based curriculum. And Nat says, of course, it's a key stakeholder, and has pointed out the fact that there was no consultation on the competency-based curriculum in the country, and have accused the minister of high-handedness, saying that this is an issue that perhaps might have needed more debate when it comes to looking into the welfare of our children in the country, or generally the institutions of learning across the country. Are we seeing perhaps the lessening or the softening of the stance by both ends? I mean, Nat and the Minister of Education regarding the important aspect of the competency-based curriculum in the country.
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, I'd like to appreciate for hosting me this particular morning to talk about the new curriculum. On the point that you've actually raised about the stalemate or the standoff between NAT and the Ministry of Education regarding the new curriculum, it is quite unfortunate happening, because the new curriculum, or a curriculum, is very important for the nation because it determines the future of this particular country. All over the world, even previously here in Kenya, when we were changing the new curriculum before, it was expected that the process will actually be very sober. Everyone was going to listen to one another, not the kind of standoff that we're seeing here. So for me, I think I blame the Ministry of Education, especially for example, when Amina Mohammed actually said that we are going to put off this particular, the implementation of the new curriculum, and then later on he made a 360 and says, no, we are ready to go. And then Sossion is actually saying that we have issues A, B, C, D. The teachers have not been trained, we don't have infrastructure, so this curriculum is not going to be rolled out. So I think the Ministry of Education, led by Professor Magoha, ought to listen to NAT. The concerns they raise to any neutral person are actually valid. So Sossion ought to be listened to by the Ministry of Education. I think perhaps what we can blame for is the kind of antics that we see, name calling and all that. It ought not to be that, but they need to have a round table so that they discuss about the new curriculum.
Valid indeed, and of course the other day we saw the softening sport by, like Ayuba said, from Sossion on the union, and they said that yes, indeed, they're going to meet on the table and just chart the way forward, which is very important. And, you know, charting the way forward then would necessarily mean that we need to address the concerns that have been raised, as you rightfully put it, because they are crucial. But then again, just looking back at the systems that you've talked about and, you know, the rolling out of different curriculums back then, in years back. I remember I was talking to someone who was there back then, you know, at some point in time. Actually, my father was telling me there's a time that there was that phase over a different curriculum into another one. And, you know, at this particular time, they were allowed, even students were allowed to actually sort of take the curriculum that they prefer. Exactly. Some of them were told, you know, you can proceed with the old one, and the others were told you can gel into the new one. And slowly by slowly, the gelling in just happened, and by default, it all happened. So looking back at the mistakes and the good things that we did back then, you know, trying to transform and trying to change from different curriculums, what is it that we are taking, you know, differently so that we are getting this, or we're witnessing this kind of standoff as it stands today?
First and foremost, it is very important to note that the process of curriculum implementation is very clear. First, you must begin with needs assessment. That is, as a country, do we need a new curriculum? Was there a report that was done? Of course, there is some information which has not been gathered about 844, wasting kids. It is a cramming system, but there is no commission of inquiry, or there is no commission which has been formed and come up with a concrete report detailing that these are the weaknesses of 844. And this is how it can be solved. So we've not even attempted to solve some of the drawbacks of 844 system.
Is it always about the solving of the problems? Like, for instance, right now we're talking about the changing of the constitution, which is not necessary. We've not even implemented it halfway. Yes. But sometimes you see the necessity of going ahead and you know, just taking that different change. Sometimes it's not because what you have is bad, but it's equally because what you're going to adapt is good.
Yeah, that is it. And it is actually good. But the process, for example, before you implement the new curriculum, you must have a policy which must be debated in Parliament and must be approved. As far as that one is concerned, it has not been done right now. I think it is about some 3 weeks ago when the Minister of Education took the policy statement to Parliament, and Parliament had several reservations on whatever that they had presented. So the idea that they're trying to bring about competency, because if you ask any kid right now in school, they'll actually tell you that they love the curriculum more than the previous one, because the previous one was emphasizing more on books. Learners were being burdened by several books.
Exams,
but in the new curriculum, the kids are so excited. I think some of the parents who are watching, as if they have kids, they'll actually know how they interact with the kids, homework, helping them. So the curriculum is God-sent, especially for the kids, so they are enjoying it. But
some parents are complaining. Are you bringing back now what you're supposed to do as teachers back home? Because then again, I think I've seen on social media, some of them argue, hey, we are almost doing all the homeworks. I personally do a lot of homeworks with my son, and I'm like asking myself, okay, what happened in between here? It's exciting, but it's equally something that someone needs to question. So maybe you can clarify that.
I think as a society, we need to look at a future where we have clear integration between the learners and the kids. The current curriculum, the learners or the children and their parents, they rarely interact.
Yes.
Maybe they only interact when they've come home or when they're bringing the report card. So this kind of interaction is meant to bond the children and their parents. And even when, as a parent, you are taking through a child on various aspects that is actually learning, that brings a lot of bonding and the society together. But now the challenge is, which our stakeholders are raising, for example, if you give this kid an assignment, the parent did not go to school. How is the parent going to help this particular kid? So for issues about technology, for example, the teacher telling the kid, go and download pictures of mountains from the internet. There are some parents who can't actually afford even 100 shillings to go and download those pictures, and maybe the assignment is on everyday basis in various subjects. So there are several issues about this new curriculum that people like us, when we raise those valid concerns, Magua doesn't listen.
And sometimes actually it's an abacada affair, contrary to what we used to do, the ABCD. It really is confusing in a way, by the way. It is confusing, but then again, we embrace it as it comes. Yeah,
we ought to embrace it, but as I've already said, that it is about the process. There is a lot of processes that have been flouted. I think the implementation, I can say that it came as a result of, you know, political influence. I want to leave a legacy. I'm the one who brought the new curriculum and all that. That is why we're actually bypassing very important steps. So for me, I actually believe that the talking is necessary, and also it should not be limited between the Minister of Education and NAT. There are several stakeholders here, the parents are also there. So everybody needs to be brought on board. But as it is right now, it is actually the Minister of Education saying that we are going forward with this, like it or not, which is unfortunate.
Okay, given that and the fact that we have had Professor George Magoha saying that his predecessor, that is CS Ambassador Amina Mohammed, did say when she appeared before the Parliamentary Committee that we're not ready to roll out the competence-based curriculum. However much you look into the positive aspect of societal progress and equipping students or learners with multi-skill to help them or enable them survive in perhaps a competitive world, given the infrastructure in place at the moment and the sort of the abandoned 2012 Professor Douglas Odhiambo report, a task force report, then of course also refuted by then Minister, that is the late Mutula Kilonzo Senior, and most of the education stakeholders citing what they say is perhaps some aspects of unfinished business with the 844 system, citing institutional memory. Given that and the infrastructure in place now, the electricity connectivity, the teacher training capacity, more than 91,000 teachers, according to Magoha, have been trained. Given all the conditions I've just mentioned, are we ripe enough then to roll out like the Nordic countries have done? Because we are seeing a success story about their script.
For me, this is my take. Anytime you try to implement a new thing, there's always that particular kind of resistance. But you listen to some of the stakeholders, the issues that they are raising. There is a story that was aired by one of the news outlets. And in the story, it was a school in Kibra whereby there was 100, there were 100 kids in class, and then there are only 4 books. Now, the competence-based curriculum is actually learner-centered, that each learner has to have his or her own book. So you find that only 4 books which are being used by the entire class. That is not quality learning. Right. So the government ought to even provide some of the learning resources which are going to be used. So this kind of competence-based curriculum, which is student-centered, when there are not enough resources, then their kids are being disadvantaged. That is why some analysts actually say this curriculum is meant for the rich, because if you go to a private school, for instance, you'll find they have enough books, they have enough crayons, pens and all that. But for the poor people, they don't have this kind of infrastructure. And I've listened to the arguments, they say that even in 844, for example, we don't have infrastructure. I mean, there's really nothing new, so to speak. I think there is a lot that we need to fix before we just go to full implementation of the curriculum.
So that means we are in acknowledgement that this is indeed a good thing, if at all we follow the right procedures and we put into consideration the most important things that need to be addressed before we implement it fully. Because then, like you rightfully put it, I had a discussion earlier on, or at some point in time, with a principal from a private institution, and to them they were complaining as to why actually we're getting delays, because they have braced themselves. They have channeled so much resources and energy towards, sort of training even their teachers. Apart from what the government is offering, they've gone ahead to train themselves and their teachers, in a special way, so that they're able to offer value for money, one of which is very, very important at some point in time, and equally just prepare themselves fully for the sake of the students. If at all we are to take these preparations to that public level, is it indeed a process that is worth sort of taking the challenge?
First and foremost, I mean, several media houses have actually done their own investigations or their own findings on various schools on the status of implementation of CBC. I think maybe the principal is actually saying they have trained their teachers and all that. That could be
they cannot afford to go back
around here in Nairobi, where they have the resources and everything. But you go to the village, to the schools in Wajir, in Turkana, then it is actually a different story. So they're saying that they've already trained teachers, they've already bought resources, and actually cannot blame them. It is the Ministry of Education to blame. For example, until right now, we don't have the curriculum designs after, for example, grade 6. Then what is going to happen? Right now, they're actually saying, the publishers were saying that the books of grade 4 for next year will actually be ready by this particular July. So these guys have been brought on board, and the stakes are quite high because the issues of, for example, the issues of books, the issues about the resources which have been invested in these. It is a case of, I think, lack of sober leadership in the ministry. As your co-presenter had actually said that Amina at first said,
we're not ready.
We are not ready. Then Magoha
pressure from the government, Uhuru himself said, no, we have to proceed with this.
We have to proceed. So for me, that is why I actually say that this curriculum is more of a political process. I mean, someone wants to get
But we're equally very rigid as Kenyans. Many times you'll see us resisting in most cases, even when there's that sort of need to loosen up and just flow with the bottle as it is. Because then again, we will always be saying that we're not ready, we're not ready, we're not ready until we're not ready in real sense.
Yeah. Now, someone sober could actually tell you like this. For example, when you talk about 844, the weaknesses of 844, did we work on those particular weaknesses? The answer is actually no.
No.
Could we have improved on 844? Can we integrate 844 and CBC? Because some of the concepts which are in the CBC can early be integrated in 844 so that so that we work on these particular weaknesses for the betterment. So as I earlier on pointed, which you are actually concurring with me, is that the curriculum is good, especially for the kids. The 844 curriculum was burdening the kid a lot. But in the competence-based curriculum, learning is becoming fun.
Learning is